Years ago, when the European politicians wanted to advertise the purpose behind the European Union, to persuade us to become part of it, they produced an advertising poster based on the painting of the Tower of Babel by the famous painter Peter Bruegel in 1563. The European Parliament building is modelled on that painting, but looking at the poster, it shows Babel with the slogan in French, "Many tongues, one voice," inverting God's judgment on Babel. Also, the five-pointed stars of the European flag have been inverted. But why? This is a recognized occultic sign. From the points down, it reveals the devil's head with horns. Look even at the European flag with its 12 stars. These normally signify the crown of Mary, Queen of Heaven. But in Babylonian culture, Queen of Heaven was the legendary title given to the earthly mother of Nimrod, builder of Babylon. But what is Babel? According to biblical history, the city of Babylon was built shortly after Noah's flood by one of his descendants named Nimrod. The people joined together in order to make a name for themselves and to increase in power, and build a great city with at its center a great tower and temple called Babel. This tower was a symbol of rebellion against God, intended to reach heaven and to prove that there was no God, or if he existed, the tower would be high enough to escape a second flood, punishment for their sin. God destroyed the Tower of Babel, and the city became known for sin and rebellion against God. Eventually, in the year 586 BC, God even allowed the children of Abraham, the Jews, to be driven into exile in Babylon because of their sin. While filming these scenes, I asked a journalist born in Strasbourg if she understood the meaning of the tower. She did, and confirmed that the members of the European Parliament also understood that it represented Babel from the Bible, but that the purpose of the European Union was to finish what Nimrod and the people together had failed to do some 3,500 years ago. What would they complete? The tower, or the power of a united people to rebel against God, totally and finally, by their acceptance of sin as a normal way of life? So this European Parliament building is a symbol of man's pride and rebellion against God. A place which must ultimately be destroyed by God because of sin. A modern tower, temple, as a symbol of the people of the 21st century uniting to say, God is dead, let us make our own gods. Later, Daniel's vision of the future ending with the restoration of the Roman Empire, which would be finally destroyed by God, was also given in Babylon. I want to show you here the model of the scaffolding. These rings round are intended to be a model or an imitation of scaffolding on an unfinished building. But this building is finished and in use. So in other words, they're trying to demonstrate on every part of this the unfinished Tower of Babel, Babylon. But this is the European Parliament in Strasbourg. This is not Babylon. This is Strasbourg in the European Union. We have linked Europe to Babylon, and we will continue this when we see Babylon in Germany in the last part of this series. But what about the restoration of the Roman Empire? In Strasbourg we have the first link with Rome. If the Roman Empire collapsed in the 5th century, and we are now in the 21st century, that's 16 centuries. Where has the Roman Empire been during that period? Well, the Roman Empire split into two during the 4th century, the western part still with Rome as its capital, and the eastern part with a new capital in Constantinople, that's modern Istanbul. As the political power of Rome declined, its spiritual power, following the conversion of Constantine, remained, but still divided along the political line from which in turn was to develop into the Western or Roman Church and the Eastern or Orthodox Church. So the Roman Empire never actually went away, but the legs of iron existed until recently, the power passing into the Church, continuing through the European prince-bishops, especially in Germany, and the Vatican, which became and still is a separate state within Europe, until now, when during the last 50 years a new empire, based on the Treaty of Rome, made up of many nations, temporal, mingled with the spiritual, to become today the final empire, or the feet, the iron mixed with the clay from Daniel's vision. Interestingly, it was Martin Luther who was the first to make the spiritual break from the Roman Church. But then came Henry VIII in Britain, who, in order to further his own ends, made a complete break with the Roman Church and established the English Church, together with the Protestant revival, which still exists today. Britain, breaking away from Rome in the 16th century, is very significant, because this is where we stand today, not totally in agreement with the European Union, torn between kinship with America and union with Europe. Is this a critical factor? Is God in his wisdom intervening to deliver us in England from what the European Union is about to become? Is it strange that for over 4 centuries this has been a spiritual as much as a political issue? Also that there is ongoing debate over the closeness and wisdom of our political union at the same time as a second debate over the possibility of reunion between Protestant and Catholic churches? The legs of iron have become the feet of iron mixed with clay. This incompatible mixture of the revived empire is destined to be destroyed by something not made with man's hands, the Son of God, Jesus Christ, at his near return to set up an everlasting kingdom. Not the 1,000-year Reich envisioned by Hitler, but a heavenly kingdom ruled by the Prince of Peace. I've shown you the restoration of the Roman Empire and the very center of it in Strasbourg. Now, I want you to come with me, and we're going to show you the second part, where we explain the book of Revelation, and I'm going to take you now into Brussels, and I want you to see what Revelation is speaking about of the Scarlet Woman and the Beast. It is interesting because there are actually two main symbols used by the European Union, both of which are found in the Bible. The first symbol, which we have already seen, is the first part of this film. It's in Strasbourg, where they've built the new European Parliament building in the shape of the Tower of Babel. But the second symbol adopted by Europe is far worse than the first. In fact, it can only be described as evil, even demonic, in its portrayal of abuse and depravity. It portrays a criminal act against women which would lead to the imprisonment of the perpetrator. Now this is shocking, and I need to explain it.